Big 12 are being told you get 2 and you'll like it.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we push back on that. And listen, I've seen the number.
Wren Baker not mincing words when it comes to the college football playoff. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up? Welcome back in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is Locked On West Virginia, baby. Let's talk some football. Let's talk some college football playoff today. Let's talk about ball. I've got a bunch of good stuff on you for tonight's episode. Wren Baker had a lot to say today. We're going to talk about a lot of that. He explained exactly what the gold and blue entity is going to look like beyond Country Roads Trust. Now that it is they've kind of got a plan for that. It's going to be what he's calling let me make sure I got it right, a 501c3, which from my understanding is a nonprofit. So we'll get into that. Also, obviously we're going to talk about the college football playoff and what he thought on that. And then I'm going to project the starting 5 offensive linemen early. We're going to try to get that done. So we'll see how fun that is on this episode. So let's get to it, man. This episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by Monarch Money. Is it right? Yeah, Monarch Money. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com/LockedOnCollege for 50% off your very first year. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen and for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. Thank you guys for coming in here for this one. This will be fun. Wren Baker today on 3 Guys Before the Game had a lot to say about the college football playoff. As a matter of fact, he doesn't like a lot of what the SEC and Big Ten are standing for in this scenario, and it makes sense, obviously, as a pro Big 12 person, and even ACC to some extent in this scenario. I understand why, but I mean, he's throwing some haymakers tonight. I think he's ditching obviously the 4-2-2-2 model, 4 auto bids for each the Big Ten and SEC, and 2 for the Big 12 and ACC. I get it, but at the end of the day, not happening according to Wren Baker. He wants to back the 5+11 model, which some people kind of raise an eyebrow towards, which means 5 conference champs and 11 at-larges. He said it. I played it in the open. He said it's really important we push back, and if the Big Ten and SEC ram through this deal, they're cooking the books. That's what he said. I almost made that the headline. Cooking the books is very strong language. That means you're rigging the game, which is true, though. By the way. That's true. He's not lying there. The unfairness argument is, obviously the 4+2 model tilts the field to the Big Ten and SEC. He also said America rejects it. It also trashes earning it on the field, which, as we know, West Virginia is all about earned success. Can you picture an 11-1 that's West Virginia team getting edged out by a 9-3? Brand favoritism, SEC school, because that's exactly what could happen. That's exactly what could happen in this scenario. The cooking the books accusation as well. I think if you look at it as a whole, because the Big Ten and SEC are manipulating college football rankings, revenue, and rules already. So that means if they're able to do this, they're going to be able to cook the books by gaming the system for $1.3 billion from ESPN to hold their 58% share, even if the Big 12 outplays them on the field. It's a power grab masked as merit, really. That's what it is. And I mean, a rigged system hampers West Virginia, even with that $20.5 million spending. It impacts the Big 12, obviously, very much. threatens the conference's revenue growth, especially with the look-in clause on the line. What the hell's the look-in clause going to do if you can't in this model? The look-in clause is really not. Basically, it's a review mechanism every 4 years to adjust college football playoff revenue. If performance warrants it. But if you take away a performance-based model, then what the hell is the look-in clause going to do? It's going to do nothing. So, he's hoping that the Big 12's 14.7% share in the college football playoff can hopefully grow, but if Big 10 and SEC teams block it in a 4-2 model, then we're screwed. So a fair share could enhance our 20.5 cap, right? And we'll be able to do more if we can get more revenue. Obviously, it's very simple. It's literally basic math. So I think it's crucial for those of us in the mid-tier, right? And so obviously, for me anyways, I was on the side of initially, I didn't know the details, I was just thinking, holy shoot, we're going to get 2 guaranteed bids. That sounds great, right? But at the end of the day, what if you outperform that? If, Wren Baker talked about that. He said, hey, look, there was a time where we had a firm look at this, and we have outperformed that 2 some years. Some years, yes, it would have been 1, but at least it's a model of earned success rather than a model of whatever you want to call it. I guess favoritism towards them. It's just not. It's not right. So I know that things can shift as far as what happens if you go to 9 games in the SEC, or what happens if you play in 2 Power 4 games, or there's a bunch of different questions that you can ask. But overall, I think the 5+11 model absolutely, of all things, gives some power back to us. Even though, and the thing is like, what are they so scared of? They've got control of everything anyways. Do you have to micromanage every little aspect of the college football playoff and everything in college football and sports, period? Personally, I think if we go into a 4+2 model, that I think we should consider possibly taking them to court. I don't know exactly how that would look, and I don't know what it would look like, but my suggestion would be, and my question would be, at what point, I mean, it already feels like it to me, but at what point are they actually monopolizing the sport? Because I mean, it feels like they already are to me on this side of things. If they go to a 4+2 model where they get 4 bids no matter what, continuing to separate, at what point is there a monopoly on college sports? I think it's a real question that needs to be answered, that some people don't do a very good job of answering or caring about, because they're in the majority, or at least they're the 1%. And sometimes the majority is not the 1%, right? Like the billionaires in this country make 99% of the decisions for the 99%. Similarly, in this, you've got the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the SEC, who is not 1%, but 20% of the greater rest of college football, making all the decisions because of who is in power, and all that. And these are historically great programs in a lot of cases. So it's frustrating for me to look at this and think this is where we're headed. But I thought it was interesting that Wren Baker said, hey, look, we need to push back against this. This is not something that we just lay down and take, because if we allow them to make this next step, we may not be able to rein this back in at any point in time. Because once the divide grows so big to a certain point, it just becomes easier. It's just much like a relationship, right? Have you ever been in a relationship where, not trying to be vulgar, but let's say you just keep hooking up, right? It's pretty much over, but you keep hooking up. Thus, the emotional attachment is kind of sticking around, right? Even if you're the one that's on the out. I've been that person before, where I've been the one that's on the out, but yeah, I'll still hook up because it's comfortable, it's there, that kind of thing. And unfortunately, you're unable to cut them off completely because of that. The convenience of that easy win and the convenience of that emotional support. Same thing with this in a similar way. Once the divide gets to a certain point to where we're so far behind that we're unable to keep up on the field, but we're still playing these teams from time to time. They're easy wins. At a certain point, they're going to be so much better than us on the field that these wins are going to be easier for them. And then you add in the fact that once you're not competitively balanced anymore, it's like you can all get in a room in your high and mighty chair and say, well, what are they doing here in the same leagues and conferences with us? So, or the same playoff with us. It's easy to look down your nose at somebody that's not as good as you are, right? So, or at a different place than you are. So, for me, it's all about, as fans, like, this is not a topic that gets me riled up as much as talking about who's going to be our starting 5 offensive linemen. I'm a pretty simple guy, but I think it's important as a fan and as somebody that covers the sport for me to talk about this, because although I think people are overall pretty tired of talking about the college football playoff, I think that we still can't stop when somebody like Wren Baker, who has just a ton of knowledge on the subject and a ton of, I would consider, he has a ton of perspective because he lives it, he's in it. He knows the ins and out. I'm sure he knows what's going to happen before it happens in a lot of cases. So that said, when he talks, I listen every time. I may not always agree with Wren Baker in some cases. It's impossible to. At this point, I don't even know if he likes me or not, because I'm able to get him on the show in a few years. But that doesn't take aside the fact that I believe he's one of the best ADs in the country. He does as good a job as anybody in the sport. I think there's a reason he'll eventually be maybe a conference commissioner. I think you could make a great case for him to be a conference commissioner, maybe even the Big 12 conference commissioner. If Yormark ever you step down or anything, I think Wren Baker would be perfect for a job like that. I think he's that talented. So anyways, guys, my thoughts on this are I back Wren Baker 100%. I was glad to see him put it out, his name and feelings out there about the college football playoff on that show. It was very, very clear cut. We cannot support it. We cannot stand by and let it happen. And, he said it like this: America doesn't want it. It's not fair. It's not merit-based. You're not earning it on the field. And they're cooking the books. Those 3 things pretty well sum it up. You allow somebody to have all the money and all the power. It's not their fault. It's yours to an extent. All right, guys, let's go to break. We'll come back and we'll talk about this nonprofit thing that Wren Baker brought up that they have unfolded. And then we're going to put the 5 starting offensive linemen who I think they're going to be based on conversations I've had with players and tape study. We'll be right back. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by Monarch Money. If you didn't know, now you know. Monarch Money is where it's at. And if you want to be where it's at, you've got to be like Monarch Money. And look, you can check your bank account and wonder, as I do and as we all do, where did all my money go? Well, with Monarch Money, they can be your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It's basically a place where you can have complete financial command center, where you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one easy, convenient place, so you can stop managing your money and start building your wealth, giving you some surprising insights, all in one convenience and easy collaboration with your significant other. Managing money with a partner is going to be smoother than ever with Monarch Money, where you can track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress, baby. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com for 50% off your very first year. It's segment 2. Let's crack open a do and break down another thing Wren Baker talked about today. Heard the term 501c3 today for the second time ever, I think. In his interview, West Virginia Athletic Director Wren Baker discussed Golden Blue Enterprises, which will be a nonprofit set up to manage revenue sharing and NIL for West Virginia. But he mentioned he mentioned a for-profit commercial entity. And I want to talk about that because by definition of 501c3 has to be a nonprofit, right? You can't have a for-profit in a nonprofit. So what do? You make it a business. You turn it to an LLC and you give it to somebody, Wren Baker. And I think this is exactly what he was talking about. So 501c3 by definition is a nonprofit organization under U.S. tax law created for charitable, educational, or otherwise exempt purposes. It cannot distribute profits to individuals or shareholders, and all revenue must support its mission. Golden Blue Enterprises as a 501c3 is a nonprofit and serves to fund West Virginia's athletic programs, including the $20.5 million revenue sharing cap for athletes starting July 1st, 2025, per the House settlement. But you can have a for-profit subsidiary. So you can own a for-profit entity like an LLC or corporation to conduct commercial activities. This for-profit subsidiary operates like any business and can generate, revenue. You can pay taxes on your income. You can transfer your profit to the 501c3 and in and about like that, right? And so those donations or dividends can support your nonprofit's mission. And you can pay your athletes, you can fund facilities or whatever you want to do. In this case, it would be Golden Blue Enterprises, which is the for-profit entity to handle ventures like NIL matchmaking, which Wren Baker talked about. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out because overall, Wren Baker is, in this interview, he's talking about emphasizing its role as a revenue-generating business through multiple different means. And I think it's going to give them the flexibility of a commercial enterprise, unlike a nonprofit, where it's kind of bound to these strict rules and regulations. He talked about that. The bureaucratic entity that is a university makes it very difficult to operate under these constraints. So you do what you do, you maneuver, and I think a lot of people will be doing this. So it gives you revenue flexibility. It gives you protection, and this was a big one that he highlighted today. Protection from the Freedom of Information Act, which, as we know, certain people around West Virginia are kind of famous for this. I think it was Mike Casaza that uses this a lot to get certain information. So by managing athlete payments and NIL through a subsidiary, you avoid the Freedom of Information Act, which discloses that apply to public universities, right? That keeps compensation details completely private, and it prevents rival schools or anybody else from using that to poach your players or figure out what you're paying them. Because if I can only pay the left tackle $250,000, somebody can just look in and say, oh, we can pay him more. So-and-so, hey, can you go offer these 5 players? 100,000 more, 500,000 more, whatever you want to do. And it streamlines that whole process. This way, you've got to make them try to break the law, break the rules, whatever you want to call it, to do this. And here's where I think it's a little bit more structured than what we've had. Now, I get it. Rules are still going to be broken. Players are still going to be poached. Success is not going to be earned necessarily in a lot of these cases. But here's what I do think. Basically, it's like this. You signed into whatever college football playoff structure we get into. If you want to be a part of that going forward, you follow these rules. That's what they're focusing this on. We find out that you didn't, then you're going to be unable to make the playoff, right? So I think that's a big deal. It's a big deal for West Virginia because the Golden Blue Enterprises thing, I think it does position West Virginia to compete in the new era of college athletics, even though we've got a bottom third budget of Power 4 schools. Wren Baker said that openly. by using a for-profit subsidiary to generate revenue, it's going to protect sensitive data. It's going to help us manage NIL. It's going to allow us to attract talent, obviously, for revenue sharing. So we can pursue deals like naming rights, premium seating reforms. So like there's a lot that we can kind of get into here. So 501c3 nonprofit status, yes, but more to it than that. This is an innovative step, in my opinion, and a smart one. And I'm glad we have smart people at our university running things, because I don't know that I would necessarily have these same ideas. I'd probably run it to the ground, you know? So yeah, absolutely. We can add Mountain Dew ads on the jerseys. That'll be the first thing that I bring up. You already know. All right, let's go to break, guys. I just wanted to explain that. I feel like a lot of people would probably listen to that today and say, what in the heck is a 501c3? I think it's funny, too. Wren Baker's so smart. Tony Caridi said, Wren, explain this to us like we were 6. And the first thing he says is, well, we got a 501c3. I'm like, Wren, this is not explaining to people like it's 6. So hopefully I did a good job of explaining it to you like you were 6. As where Wren Baker didn't do a great job of that. It's not his fault. He's just too smart for his own good. Honestly, that's just the truth. He's a very smart individual. You don't get to where he's at without being a high functioning person. I would love to know what his IQ is. It's probably up there. Definitely gifted IQ, I would say. All right, we'll go to break. We'll come back and I'll give you these 5 offensive linemen. We got some tape to watch. You know, I love this. Who are the 5 offensive linemen going to be for West Virginia? I've got a pretty good idea. We'll talk about it next. All right, we're back here on Locked On West Virginia, segment 3, talking West Virginia football. We've been talking a little Wren Baker speaking out on the college football playoff and talking about exactly what Golden Blue Enterprises is as a nonprofit / for-profit. How does that work? How can you be both? We discussed that and went over it. If you weren't here for that, make sure you like the video while you're here. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and absolutely hit that like button before you go, please. Whether you move your thumb over, your finger over, your mouse clicker, whatever you can do. Yeah, appreciate that. And if your old lady's laying on your shoulder, ask her to do it, right? I used to have that problem. I'd want to like a video and my ex would be laying on my shoulder and I'd be like, hey, like that video for me. Swipe up for me. She'd get so aggravated by it. All right. I told you guys I would put together starting 5 and I lied. I couldn't settle on just 5 guys. So I don't know if this is going to be good, but there is a couple positions where I've got an or there factored in. I know it's not exactly the best approach. So here are the guys I have starting from left, moving over to right tackle. Nick Cray at left tackle or Malik Abgo. I've got Walter Youngbear at left guard. I've got Landon Livingston or Carson Lee at center. I've got Aiden Bussell at right guard, and I've got Tykees Crawford at right tackle or Xavier Bosley. So I think that's where I've landed. Now, there are other guys. I mean, Haslam, Michael Clay. There are other guys on there that I think could impact it. I just need more intel. So this is an exercise for before summer, right? Like we're in the summer workout period, but we're not in the summer practice yet, or fall really. So until I get some more data from listening to press conferences, mostly reading what writers that are actually allowed to be there say, that kind of stuff, this is the route I'm going based on film study. I've got clips from almost all these guys. The only ones that I don't have clips for are, I want to say Abgo. Is it Abgo or Ogbo? I always get it confused. Doesn't really matter. And I think obviously Cray. Let's see. I don't have Cray, Abgo, or Carson Lee. That's who I don't have, unfortunately. I've messaged Carson. Hopefully he'll send me some stuff on his tape because I need his Eastern Michigan stuff. I used to be able to find it. I can't find it anymore. I would love to see his Mississippi State practice footage. Gosh, that would be fun. But we've got a couple clips from Xavier Bosley when he was at Jacksonville State, where he was a freshman All-American. I want to point out exactly why I still think he's not out of this race. I can't believe that unless he's injured. I just can't believe that listen, Xavier Bosley was literally this close to beating out Nick Malone last year. I know that for a fact. And Nick Malone was a very, very good player for us last year at times. So I just can't see a world where Xavier Bosley doesn't have a chance. He was already a freshman and All-American in this offense. So I just can't give up on him until somebody tells me he's not starting. So we'll see what happens there. And then obviously Cray and Livingston have earned the right to be the incumbents until told otherwise, because I just think that's just the way it is. I don't think they're bad players at all. Actually, I think they're really good players, and so I'm not going to just put somebody over them because they're newer. So let's get to it. Let's check out Xavier Bosley first, huh? We haven't seen much on him. Definitely haven't seen much on him at WVU. So what I've got here is some tape of Xavier whenever he played for Jack State. So, the thing about it is, let me turn this down. This is Xavier here on the left side. Look at the hole he makes here. Very strong player. Obviously, got a lot of length. This is against Sam Houston, and that's that defensive end. One of the defensive ends they just had go. Was one of the best players this year. I think he was like a sophomore or freshman here. I went and looked it up. But this year, this guy got paid. So, maybe he wasn't as good as he is now then, but I just want to point it out. So Xavier, if you'll see here, is on the left side. This is him working, and really great job the way he leverages into this. He's got that first kick step, and then boom, I love that, and then just driving a guy outside. And then you've got, and here you can see it from this angle as well. So right here. So nicely done there. And then you got one more play here where he does basically the same thing. Same kind of play, right? Maybe the same play, actually. So I can't stay on these very long, unfortunately, because they are ESPN. So if I stay on them any longer than like 5 seconds, they'll hit me with a strike. So that's why I kind of just use the fast forward button on it. But that's all I could find on Xavier Bosley, unfortunately. If you go watch games from Jack State 2 years ago, you can watch a lot. So maybe I suggest you would do that. But overall, like I said, Xavier's, I consider him a friend. Even though we don't talk as much as we used to. I think that's because he's focused on what he's got to do. And at the end of the day, I'm still in the media to him. So, I just wish him the best. I really want him to win that job. I think he's earned it. He's a West Virginia kid. And I want all West Virginia kids to do well, but, especially Xavier, because I've said it before. I haven't said it in a while, though. Whenever Xavier transferred from Jacksonville State, most of the time these kids announce it, right? They put a post out, hey, I'm transferring here, and it's like a celebration. And we had been talking for a couple months prior to that, and he was like, hey, man, here's what I plan on doing. Whenever I decide to transfer, whether it's UK or West Virginia, because those ended up being his final two, UK and West Virginia, he was like, I'll let you announce it. So, I was excited about that, but I wasn't sure if it was actually going to happen that way because people get word, whispers, and he actually did. Now, this was a few years back, so I didn't really know as much then. I think I've been doing this for about a year at the time, maybe a little more, but, I didn't realize that it's kind of an etiquette thing, like you want to let the kid make the announcement. Like it looks bad if a reporter jumps out and does this without the kid doing it first. But not everybody didn't know he gave me permission. That was the funny part. Like nobody knew I had permission from him to do it. So everybody's like, "Hey, you're supposed to let the kid do it." And I'm like, "Man, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize." So, but anyway, Xavier did that for me, and it was one of the first scoops that I actually got. Um, Actually, it may have been I think it was the first scoop that I had. So, and I mean, that's just recruiting information. So it's not like huge or anything like that. But I was so excited to do that. It was like my first big scoop. It was fun. Since then, I've had probably 7 or 8 what I would consider big scoops that I've been really proud of. Obviously, Pat White I don't know if I'll ever do better than that. Announcing that literally a month before it actually happened. And then reporting that he was in the building that day. Anyway, this ain't about me. This is Aiden Bustle, who I love, guys. You guys know that. Of all the guys that we talk about, I'm not just saying this because he came on my show. I think Aiden Bustle he's got 3 years left, right? He was running with the 2s at Tennessee. And a lot of people, I've asked 2 separate people, one of them's a content creator for Tennessee. They think if he would have just stayed one more year, that he would have probably been starting the last 2 years. The thing is Tennessee has enough money. I've said this before. Tennessee has enough money to go out and buy somebody that's maybe a little more ready-made or has the tape or more experience than Aiden. And that's the only reason, in my opinion, he's not doing more. We've looked up all these guys that you can see anyway, that he's gone against in the past. This is the 3rd time I've watched this on the show over the last few months. But I'm the only person that has this. So you can't find this online or anything. So, I like to thank Aiden for this. But, this is Tennessee practice, obviously, and they're all Tennessee practice. But he goes against the first team every time in all these clips that I'm aware of. I think there's a couple where they're second team guys we looked up, but they would be first team this year coming up. And a couple of them were like, one of them was an NFL guy that he dominates on here. I'll show you when and where. Another guy is an all SEC player that he just destroys. So, I just want to give you that context before we jump in here. Because not a lot of people know a lot about Aiden Bustle. As you can see here, it's just said it. He's 6'5", 320 pounds. And yes, he does play guard. He can play tackle as well. But I think he'll be a guard. So, all right. So here he is right here playing guard. And look, it just jumps off the screen, really, in my opinion, the quickness that he has. Okay. I'm going to make sure it was, watch how he rips that arm around and gets down the lane. That's something they teach him, is to rip whenever you turn. I don't know. I guess it helps you with momentum. But watch as he rips and gets out of there and how quick he comes around and kicks out. Boom. Boom. Right? Just beautifully done. Talking about moving, man. There he is again, same scenario. And he plays center as well. He can play center as well. As you can see here, he's snapping it right here. This is him at center. It's very grainy. They're not all like that, though. Snap, and he's gone out. Boom. And he's agile for a 6'5", 320. Here he is at right guard again. Nicely done there, just taking his guy way out of the play. Here he is again at right guard. As you can see, pulls around. Really great block. Here he is at right guard, driving a guy back into the end zone. Right guard again, driving a guy pancake blocked. These are all Tennessee starters, so that's why I say, or starters or at least second teamers on some of these. I believe this guy here, we looked up this guy here. He's a starter for Tennessee this year. And Aiden just dominates him every time. It's very frustrating for this guy, I'm sure. But, it's not even close, right? Anybody with eyes can see how much of a dominant factor he is being right here, right? It's insane. It's not even close. Let's go back one more. I want to make sure I have the right number on this kid. All right, let's see it one more time. It just makes me laugh how he lets him fall. Very beautifully, just beautifully blocked. Is that 87? I think that's 87. It's either 87 or 97. maybe I've looked up the wrong number in the past. I want to make sure, but who is number defensive lineman? I do this every time. I wonder if anybody hates it. Number 87. All right. So it could be him. Let's see. Let's just look up the roster. So there's two guys it could be, but is that a black guy he's blocking or a white guy? I couldn't tell. So it could be Joshua Helsden, number 87, who is 6'4", 290, was a 4-star player, it looks like. Let's see. Last year played in all the games last year. It says he had a season high 28 defensive snaps versus Chattanooga. So it could either be him or we'll just change that 8 to a 9. And we'll look again. I think it might be 97 though, but we'll see. We shall see. Yeah, that's who it is. Pretty sure anyways. No, I don't know. Let me make sure though. All right. No, not the Titans. Okay, now we got the. Okay, finally I found the roster. Okay, here we go. 97. Okay, yeah, that's the guy. That's him. Jason Jenkins. That's who it is. Okay, so he is a 6'6", 281-pound defensive lineman. Last year he played in all 13 games, contributed to Tennessee's deep line rotation, showcased explosive ability to shift momentum as a pass rusher, finished the season with a career best 5.5 tackles for loss and 4 sacks, posted a pair of tackles in a road win versus Vanderbilt. So anyways, he was only a redshirt sophomore here, but so is Aiden. And so, my point is these are good players. I'm just trying to make a point that these are all Tennessee players, by the way. Anyways, but I mean, and Tennessee was in the playoff, right? So it's like they got to be good. But I just want to point out, like, this guy's beating good players. So, and easily. I mean, that's easy work for him. Not even close. Now, that's a linebacker. But, I mean, as you can see, he moves up to the second level well. Look at that play. I mean, isn't that impressive? This is so hard to do. You're blocking the nose and then moving up to the second level here. Just really nicely done. Yeah, very nicely done. Here he is again. Same kind of play. Same kind of play. Right again at right guard. I think I looked at this guy once before as well. Sometimes it's harder to see the numbers on the guys. Sometimes it's not. But, I mean, good Lord. Yeah, that guy right there we looked up before. What was his name again? What was his number again? Oops, sorry. I think it's 51. Okay. We'll go back and check him out really quick. I do this every time, don't I? I think it probably aggravates people. I'm not sure. All right. So looks like, 6'2", 307 pounds. Jackson Moy. So, all right. Looks like he transferred in from Stanford, where he started all 12 games at defensive tackle from Stanford. Had 25 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks, 2 quarterback hurries, 1 pass breakup, and 458 defensive snaps at Stanford. And last year as a junior at Tennessee, it looks like he had – it's just giving me individual number. Oh, there it is. 53 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 4 pass breakups. So this is a very good player, right? And as you can see, against a guy that's got, let's read it again, 53 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 1 forced fumble and 4 pass breakups at Tennessee and Stanford. And this is how he's blocking him. Now, look, I will add the caveat, though, here that this is 1 rep, so it's like it's not exactly fair to say that maybe he lost the other 9. I don't know. But I mean, I'm just pointing out this guy is consistently whipping on tape a very good player here, at least on this play, pretty easily as well. I mean, it's not like he struggled with him. So this is why I continue to go back to Bustle. I think Bustle's a guy that there's no way I see him not winning the job. I really don't. Maybe I know nothing and I'm completely wrong. And I'll come back on here, and if I end up being wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. Maybe he's a little too young still. I mean, that's possible for sure. Maybe he's a year away. Maybe he has a hard time picking up some of the offense. Those are all possibilities. But as I watch his tape, every time I watch it, I'm absolutely stunned that he didn't get to play at Tennessee. I am. I mean, their offensive line must be freaking elite, man, to not for a guy like this not to play, you know? So, number 42, yeah, we looked him up as well at Tennessee. Pretty sure he is a good player too. Make sure. Yeah, Tyree West, that's his name, or spelled Tyre West, 6'3", 290 pounds. Let's see. So 40 tackles, 13 tackles for loss of 62 yards, 6 sacks and a safety. You know, so he's played in 35 career games with 3 starts. So on that play there, he was blocking somebody that has 40 total tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 60 for 62 yards, and 6 sacks for a loss of 42 yards and a safety. It says he's an elite prep career at Georgia, in the state of Georgia, I'm assuming. Let me see. So he played in all 13 games last year at Tennessee. And so, in 2023, and in 2024, obviously he started. So, you know, I mean, once again, just pointing out, and I hate to keep stopping it. I don't, hopefully I'm not annoying anybody with this, but I want to give you some confidence here. Like, it's a really good player. And you see Aiden really holds up well against the guy. And these are huge defensive linemen in the SEC. It's just, this guy's 6'3", 290 pounds. This is as big as anybody on our defensive line. I don't think we have anybody bigger. So, you know, it's impressive to me that he looks so good. And look at, and I mean, his agility, everything when he pops out of this stance looks so good. And the way he handled that spin move was so good. So, you know, I just think, you know, the more I watch it, the more I really fall in love with Aiden. You know, there's number 87 again. So, Aiden Bustle, man, will have a starting job on our offensive line. I just about guarantee it. Glad I was able to get him on the show before he became real famous, because I have a feeling he's going to be an all Big 12 caliber player. So that's my prediction for Aiden. Definitely going to start somewhere. Don't know where. But yeah, I hate the autofill feature as well. But yeah, Aiden Bustle, man, that boy can go. So really appreciate him for sending me this, by the way. But yeah, this is a guy, I think he's ready to come in and really make a statement. West Virginia is going to run behind him a lot. And man, look at him in pass pro as well. I mean, he really doesn't make a ton of mistakes in pass pro. I mean, and, you know, once again, I point out, as a second team guy, he had to go up against Tennessee's first team every day. So, I mean, you got to think that honed him like crazy to be a good player. So that's a good one. So, you know, so I got him. So the other guy I've got on the offensive line is obviously Walter Youngbear, but also Tykees Crawford. I've only got one clip of Crawford here. I didn't realize I'd gone this long already on the show. Let's look at this clip of Tykees Crawford. So here he is right here, playing right tackle. I think that's a tight end on the end. And that's him right there. So he's down blocking on somebody. It's the only clip I could find of him at Arkansas. and he basically just drives the guy totally out of the play. Or is that maybe it's the other guy? Hold on, let me see where that circle is. It could be either one of these two players. I'm not exactly sure which. I'm assuming it's this guy here, actually, now that I look at it. So there he is. He's pulling, and boom, drives the guy straight out of the play. That's really nice. There's one more here, I think, at Charlotte, it says. Yeah, this is him at Charlotte, but that's so hard to see. I'm assuming that's him right there who just pancaked somebody. But yeah, I think Tykees Crawford physically, just looking at him physically, is a guy that I'll have a hard time believing won't be a starter at West Virginia. I mean, he was so good at in high school, but unfortunately, he's had some things that haven't gone his way in college, and that's unfortunate. But I do think talent-wise, he's definitely got the ability to start, and I had to throw him in the mix. So over at right tackle, so he's a guy, and then the only other guy I've got tape on is Walter Youngbear, who is a very good player as well. Very strong, can move. He does every. I mean, he was our first O-line guy, right? He was like the one we brought in first. Number 54 here on the left guard. I think that's where he'll play for us. He's a really talented guy. He can move. He's strong. There's a lot to like about him. If somebody's hammering on that video in the background, I better pause it. But he's nasty too. Doesn't have a lot of length. I think that's one thing about him that you look at and say, okay, maybe that could be better. But I mean, overall, man, he is really strong. As you can see, holds up well. He played in the American, which gives you good talent to go against. I mean, I'm sure he went up against several NFL players playing in the American Conference. The American has, there's close to Power 4 as you can get some of the teams, especially once you play teams like Tulane. Some of those teams are as talented as Power 4 teams are. So, yeah, I really like Walter Youngbear a lot. I think he's got a ton of experience, and I think he'll definitely be in the mix as one of our starters. He's also undersized in a good way because, he can move. He's so athletic. So, like you see here, look at the athleticism. I mean, that's very good. Look how quick he gets out on this backer and gets the edge. That's very good. And so, I think that and then nasty after the fact. So I think this is the thing. One of the main reasons he'll be so good in a Rich Rod offense is he's literally the kind of O-lineman that Rich Rod goes after, is an undersized guy. I mean, he's 6'3". He's not small. But, I mean, he's not a 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", 325-pound guard either, right? He's a 6'3", 290-pound guard. And so those guys have to be quicker and a little bit more. They got to be nasty too, though. And I think he's absolutely that and more, and will be good in our offense. I think our offensive line, especially if Bustle works out like I think he can, I think we have a chance to be good on the interior, and then our tackles will be a bit of a question mark until we can see what we have there. But overall, I think, if Youngbear, let me look at my list again. So obviously, I've got Cray or Ogbo on the left tackle spot. I've got Youngbear at the left guard, Livingston or Carson Lee at center, Aiden Bustle at right guard, Tykees Crawford at right tackle, or Xavier Bosley at right tackle. I think those are pretty much the guys. There are a couple others that you can look at and say, yeah, they're in it. Like, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Donovan Haslam or Michael Clay, Kimo Macanioli. The only reason I haven't said anything on Kimo is literally because there's no tape of him out there. I haven't found any, not a scrap. I mean, you can go back to high school, but that serves you no purpose now. So I think, if I could see some Kimo tape, maybe I would fall in love with it. Maybe I wouldn't. I'm not one of the big Haslam guys. I'm not a big Haslam guy. So some people think he's really good. So, there are people that have differing opinions on it. But overall, I think, what Aiden Bustle's had to go through at Tennessee, the way he looked against the players at Tennessee, the way he moves, how strong he is, how big he is. He's 6'5", 320 pounds. He can move like that. Will be a great – maybe they play him at tackle even. I don't know. But, I was told straight up, like they targeted him, told him he was their guy, and they wanted him. So I think that Aiden Bustle was probably my most dark horse player on the entire team. Nobody knows about him. Nobody, except us. If you watch this show, nobody else has got any tape on him. So, yeah, that's all I got, guys. I appreciate you for joining in on this episode. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen and for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. It's like a rap song, right? I want to get right back on and talk more. I'm not done. I want to talk about other stuff. Maybe I'll come back, maybe I won't, but either way, I'll see you on the next one. Have a great one, guys. I'm out.